What's up YouTube, Dow here from Zephyr War Games, and today I am bringing you a Skull Servant deck profile. Now, with Skull Servants, I don't actually own the cards. It's one of the very few decks that I don't actually own all the cards for, and I was very surprised because I was like, I swear I've got White Prince, I swear I've got White Mare and stuff like that. But on the plus side, most of this has now all been reprinted beautifully. So White Prince has just been confirmed as a reprint in Maximum Gold, as a gold rare. So that means that technically this whole deck can be built on a budget. And for those of you that don't know what this deck can do, it's actually pretty scary. It's very, very good, very, very powerful deck. And basically what it revolves around is Skull Knight. So for those of you who don't know what Skull Knight is, it was a vanilla that came out in Legend of Blue Eyes. I wouldn't say it's random, but here you go. Anyway, here's the deck list. And we'll go through the deck list as we go. But basically, it revolves around this guy here, King of the Skull Servants. Here's your OTK Manipulator. So the original attack of this card is the combined number of King of the Skull Servants and Skull Servants in your graveyard times 1000. When this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can banish one other King of the Skull Servants or one Skull Servant card from your graveyard to special summon this card. So he doesn't go anywhere. He will keep on floating. The only thing is, only his attack is what gets increased. Everything else stays as it is. Now, how do you make this worthwhile? He's a level 1 effect monster. Well, the way it works is you do have the ability, using White Prince mainly, to pretty much flood your grave with different white cards that become Skull Servants in the graveyard. And we'll go over those as we go. Now, this particular build that you see in front of you is the budget-friendly version. So King of the Skulls is probably like a £2 common. So is Skull Servant, believe it or not. If you want to rarity bump them, they only came out as like Speed Duels and Legendary Collection Yu-Gi Worlds, and you're looking at like £30 a playset. The Lady of White, I'll go over all these effects in a second, but the Lady of White was reprinted in OTS 13, so very cheap common there. White Mare was reprinted as an Ultra in Dual Overload. White Prince is being reprinted as a gold rare in Maximum Gold. White Prince was in Rate, which is, I think it was like not Raging Duelist, but it was basically, it got reprinted in the Megatins 2017. It's like a £1 common. Unizombies had a couple of reprints. Mizuki's got a couple of reprints, and then you got Monster Reborn, Call of Grave, 1-for-1, Foolish Burial, Where Art Thou, Burial from a Different Dimension, Book of Life, Unexpected Die, and Allure of Darkness. Now, so obviously Allure of Darkness is draw combo, and then there's a 2-card combo between Unexpected Die and Where Art Thou that will get stuff moving. Anyway, let's continue through the deck list. So you've got triple King of the Skull Servant, triple Skull Servant itself, triple the Lady of White. So face up level 3 or lower zombie monsters on the field except herself cannot be destroyed by battle and are unaffected by spell and trap effects. So if you get her on the board in defense mode as a 2200 defender, she's going to protect your King of the Skulls. But the idea is that you kind of want her in the graveyard purely because this card needs to become Skull Servant while it's in your graveyard. Beautiful. White Mare, again, you max out on all of these because you want to have as many Skull Servants in your graveyard as possible. This card name becomes Skull Servant while in the graveyard. Shocker. You can discard this card, then activate one of the following effects. Target one of your banished Skull Servants or White Mares, return it to the graveyard. Target one of your banished Lady in White or King of the Skull Servants and special summon it. So, in a normal deck, you'd probably want him at 2 because like he does need that graveyard setup. But the idea is you're going to be pumping your graveyard very, very quick and consistently, very, very quickly. And the idea is technically all you need is like 2 cards to build up your OTK, and the rest of the cards can just be discard fodder or grave fodder as long as they are Skull Servants. Then you move on to probably what is the best card in this deck apart from obviously the King itself, and this is White Prince. So if this card is sent to the graveyard anywhere, just sent to the graveyard in general, you can send 1 Skull Servant and 1 Lady of the White from your hand and or deck to the graveyard. It's a double Foolish Burial. You can banish 2 Skull Servants and this card from the graveyard, special on 1 King of the Skull Servants from your deck. This card's name becomes Skull Servant while it is in the graveyard. So, you send White Prince. Straight away, you then send Lady in White and you then send Skull Servant. That puts 3k in the graveyard. You banish those, you get your King of the Servants out of the deck. that is then where White Mare comes into play, because then White Mare can start putting those banished Skull Servants back into the graveyard, which means you then boost your King of the Servant. Now, your White Mare is not a hard once per turn, so you could either put out 3 Skull Servants, or you're going to be putting out a Skull Servant from the deck, so you don't even need to open it, and making it a base 3k. So you're able to keep pumping cards into the graveyard, and I'll explain more as we go. We've then got the White Princess. Again, becomes Skull Servant while it's in the graveyard. If this card is normal or special, you get to send 1 White Prince from your deck to the graveyard. During either player's turn, you can send this card from the hand or from the field. All monsters currently on the field lose attack and defense equal to their own level and rank times 300. So, okay, King of the Skull Servant's going to lose 300 attack. Oh well. But again, if you normal or special summon White Princess, she is then going to send, you guessed it, White Prince. White Prince will then send Skull Servant and Lady in White. So just from White Princess, you've got 4k in the graveyard, banishing 3 of them to make him at least a k, but then you have the ability to use White Mare to put them back into the graveyard, and off you go again. Then, of course, we've got Unizombie, because Unizombie, as your normal summon, can technically send 2 White Princes should you need it. So, if you have the ability, for example, to bring out a Skull King, you could normal summon Unizombie. Unizombie will send from deck White Prince. White Prince will then follow that up by sending a Skull Servant and a Lady in White. Then you could, using your hand, send another White Prince from your hand to the graveyard, then do the exact same effect. So if you were to get a King of the Skull Servants on the board, he is a base 6k already. Madness. And then we've got Mizuki, because it's technically a zombie monster reborn for any of your cards. So if your King of the Skull Servant is in the graveyard because you sent it there, you just bring it back. You just go, Mizuki, bring it back. Mizuki, bring back Unizombie. Mizuki, bring back White Prince, link White Prince off, and go into another one. So technically, if Unizombie was to send 1 White Prince from the deck to the graveyard, you could then trigger White Prince's effect. It can then send a Mizuki from the hand. Mizuki can then bring back the White Prince. White Prince can then go into a Relinquish Anima or a Link Karibo, and then do its effect again. Like, you see where the synergy is coming from. Then got Monster Reborn, bring back anything. Call by the Grave, 1 for 1, Foolish Burial, all self. Okay, so after that little bit of technical difficulty, ladies and gentlemen, sorry about that. We've got Where Art Thou. Now, Where Art Thou can, of course, search you out a King of the Skull Servants if you were to special summon any of your other level 1s. But it can also get you a White Mare and a White Prince should you want to be discarding the White Prince from the hand. Or, of course, you discard the White Mare straight away and off you go. We've then got a personal tech on Mind Burial from a different dimension. So again, it just gives you that other alternative that if you were to use White Prince to banish everything to get a King of the Skull Servants out, you can use Burial from a different dimension to put all 3 back into the grave. Again, is basically what you've got to see this as is a quick play plus 3k to your King of the Skull Servants. Simple as that. You've then got, you could also loot Mizuki as well. You've then got Book of the Life, so target a zombie monster in your graveyard, add 1 monster in your opponent's graveyard, special on 1, banish the other. Now, obviously, again, the idea of that one is you do need to go second. Your opponent doesn't need a monster in the graveyard, so that is why we only play it to 2. Unexpected Die, special summon, get Skull Servant out, activate Where Art Thou, add a White Mare, White Prince, King of the Skull Servants, either of those that you want. And then off you go from there. Allure of Darkness, on the budget side, these are all darks. They are all extenuating fodder, should you need them to anyway. Moving down, so this is the budget build. Now, if we've got no budget restrictions whatsoever, obviously the deck does get better. Now, if you have no budget restrictions whatsoever, straight away, I'd be putting in Forbidden Droplet, because Forbidden Droplet sends the cards. So if you were to open up double White Prince, or you were to open up any White Princes at all, you can send them to the graveyard. Straight away, you're halving at least 2 of your opponent's monsters, or at least 1 of your opponent's monsters' attack. You are then setting your graveyard up for a 3k monster at the very least, and getting you a King of the Skull Servants back, plus negating 2 effects. So in my opinion, for the OTK version of this deck, it is incredibly so much stronger than, of course, a Dark Ruler No More, because you want to deal damage. The idea is getting a level 1 monster on the board is going to win you the game outright. Extravagance over Allure, purely because, again, this is another very, very good Ash target. Now, obviously, if your White Prince does get Ashed, you are in a little bit of trouble, but Extravagance is one of those early game cards that you play straight away, and it does give your opponent that dilemma of going, do I Ash it, do I not? And then straight away, you've got the Allure of Darkness. It would replace the Allure of Darkness straight up and easy. And then, so we'll take those out. There we go. And then straight away, you've got your banish, you've got your draw 2. Your draw 2, again, can be any of these combinations of these cards to get you going. The only one you don't really want to see in your hand is Skull Servant. Everything else you can kind of happy to see in your hand. But again, ideally, you want White Prince to be able to be sent to the graveyard at any point. And then you've got your King of the Skull Servants as well. Other options as well, we do have Infinite Impermanence. That is one big thing that could really hurt King of the Skull Servant. But again, you're playing this for fun. Like, just being able to OTK with a Skull Servant is the ideal goal with this. And then your other side deck cards or main deck cards is up to you. You got Super Poly. Now, obviously, all of you are dark, so that will then dictate the rest of your build, your extra deck. But you can, of course, use Super Poly as a nice little out to people's Dragoons or Vertes or anything like that. You've then got, of course, Artifact Lancia, Evenly Matched, Ash Blossoms, Ghost Ogres, Veilers, Nibiru's, and Lightning Storms. Now, obviously, Lightning Storms will be better going in the main if you think you're going to be facing up against a lot of control decks. You do have to keep in mind, depending on what your locals is, you will adapt the rest of the deck. The only thing that, in my opinion, is staple free ofs are all of the Skull Servant cards. It is a Skull Servant deck. That is the way you do it. If you have the money or you have them to hand, Droplets and Extravagance to me, again, are the next cards that are guaranteed to go in here alongside your Monster Reborn, Call by the Grave, 1-for-1, and Foolish Burial. Where Art Thou is down to personal preference, so is Unexpected Die. Book of the Life, again, is just that additional Monster Reborn. So again, like I said, if you were to activate White Prince, send to, you can then activate Book of the Life, bring back White Prince, link it off into a Link Karibo, Relinquish Anima, anything like that. It then goes to the graveyard, triggers the effect again. That then puts your graveyard up to 5k. So again, all you then need to do is just normal summon out your King of the Skull Servants and off you go. So there's a lot of play to move around with. Moving on to the extra deck, again, the extra deck is entirely up to you. The one thing you can do in as a little tech side is you can put like a rank 8 Scarlight or Omega. Omega can be really good to put stuff back into your graveyard as well, but again, we're going more for OTK. So the side deck would probably be a bit more control. So you put like Zombie World, there can only be one, Rivalry, stuff like that. So the extra, of course, we've got like double Link Karibo, got double Relinquish Anima over here as well. So you've got your defensive and your offensive options for your Link 1 materials. You've also got double Starving Venom. You've got Thousand Eyes, Millennium Eyes. That's one thing I forgot to put in. Here we go. Yeah, so this crashed on me and I forgot to put a card in. So Instant Fusion goes straight in. So Instant Fusion is another one of your one-offs just because it gives you another level 1. It can also give you, if you wanted to put a zombie in here, it could give you another zombie. You don't really need that, but it's mainly there for your level 1 targets. And then straight away they go into Relinquish Anima and everything like that. Then, of course, you've got your Mud Dragon, you've got your Predaplant, Dracus Depelio. Anything that is a Super Poly target is what you'd put in here. Link Spider, so you've got Skull Servant. If you were to get 2 of these or an Unexpected Die plus a Skull Servant, you can go Link Spider. Unexpected Die, Skull Servant. Link Spider from the first Skull Servant, special summon down the second Skull Servant, link those 2 off, go into Phoenix, or go into, like, work your way up into a Unicorn or an access code, again, depending on what your budget is. This can be anything. This can be like Zero Boris if you want to, but you shouldn't really need to go into these at all. And then, obviously, the idea is you're building your board up. You've already put 2 Skull Servants in the graveyard. You then get a White Mare in the grave. Now, other cards you can consider is you could consider stuff like Dangers, but then the only thing you really want to be sending from your hand or discarding from the hand is the White Prince. Everything else you put in the graveyard, the only reason you'd play the Dangers is the idea would be that you would save your normal summon and you would just constantly keep revealing your Dangers to try and get the White Prince in the graveyard. The White Prince would then deck Thin, and the idea is that you would end up either drawing into the Skull Servant for your normal summon for the turn, or just by pure fact you've been able to discard so many White Princes off of your Dangers via luck that you can then use the Dangers to link climb higher, give you board protection, bait out cards that you want to be dealing with, and that is another replacement for your Droplet. And then you're just going to go Skull Servant, swing, game. So that is what it is. I really love this deck. I think the deck is incredibly fun. I do want to build it. Now that I know White Prince is being reprinted, I was like this close to paying £7 for a common. Like, how bad is that? All I've got to do is dig these out, but I'm pretty sure someone will have these quite cheap, and then buy myself some King of the Skull Servants. I think it's very fitting, being around Halloween time, that these are cards that we can pretty much use and abuse, and it's quite a fun deck to be playing around with. I still need to do a bit of testing. I still need to learn it a little bit more. This is only a deck profile video for you guys. Again, I prefer to have the physical copies in front of me, but I just didn't have them in time, and it did win the poll. So I am a man of my word. I will bring you the videos where we can. Anyway, I hope this video satisfies your Skull Servant needs. Like I said, there's the two options of budget and non-budget. It really depends if you've got them or not. If you don't have them, don't worry. The deck still competes. You've got to remember that the core goal is King of the Skull Servants. If you do, the only thing that having a budget and not having a budget allows you to do is the draw engine is a little bit better. I mean, Allure of Darkness isn't bad as a bad alternative, and the defensive option to go second and clear a board and still win the game from that point on is much better. But then this can be replaced. You just need to be able to bait out cards. You need to be able to negate cards, anything like that, to make sure that if you're facing that board of like Appaloosa, that's probably where you're going to be putting in something like Lava Golems or Kaijus or any equivalent like that to deal with the Dragoons, the Appaloosas, and all the other cards like that. In order to make sure your white mares go off and all of that. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. Please smash the like button. Show some appreciation towards profiles like this. I will be bringing you a opening for Phantom Rage and, of course, a Mutant profile. Again, Mutant profile will be coming out on Halloween. I think that's a perfect way to end October with the brand new horror-themed, Stranger Things inspired, I believe, Mutant deck. Anyway, thank you so much for every single one of you watching. Please smash the like button, subscribe, show all this appreciation to the channel. We just want to keep on growing. We want to keep producing content for you guys and support you well at all we can. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. As absolutely always, guys, stay safe and happy dueling.